Alright, what's good YouTube? Gentlemen, Thomas here back with another video on the channel, and today we have our WPF Season 10 Draft Analysis. Yes, it has now been 10 seasons, or rather, we are in the 10th season of WPF. We have participated in all 10 seasons. This is going to be the 4th season, I believe, where I record. I'm very excited about this season as well, especially because there's a couple of new stuff that I will get to here in a little bit. As you can see, we relegated from the attack division down to speed division, which is a little bit unfortunate, but my performances in the last 2 seasons haven't been that great, so I'm more than accepted of this. Like, of course, we were in a relegated spot, like we got 3rd last, I believe, last season, which is a spot that would relegate us just normally. But also just my performances overall, I don't feel like we're good enough for attack division anymore, so being in speed is fine. I'm hoping we can do better, but I've seen some of the people in speed division. They are some tough players still, so this is not going to be easy. If we can make it to playoffs and we can make it to semifinals, I will be more than happy. If we can win, that is of course the ultimate goal we do want to have. We do want to win it all, but if we can get to semifinals, I will say that's an overall good season. If we just we get to playoff, I can like accept it, but I do want to get that little bit of extra than playoff, you know. This season was very interesting because there was a couple of new stuff we can quickly talk about. So we were 4th pick overall out of 16 coaches, so 16 coaches as we have been the last couple of seasons. There were new unbans for this season, which is very interesting. So we had like Greninja, Mega Alakazam, Libero Ace, Kyurem Black, Naganadel, Summer Center Crown, Shaman Sky, stuff like that. Which was gave a very interesting draft dilemma, kind of, at least early in the draft, because a lot of new stuff people wanted. But the catch was all of these new unbans had some sort of restriction on them. I think the only one that didn't have restrictions was Summer Center Crown. But I know the admins, moderators, and all of the people behind WPF did test in speed tours and whatnot to see if stuff would be broken or not. So I think they just realized that Summer Center Crown isn't like completely broken in the regular format. I still think it's a really good pickup, but I don't think it's better than like Mew, Dragapult, Shifu, Single Strike, stuff like that. So I do kind of agree that it doesn't necessarily need a ban. I think they had banned Howl on it to begin with, but Howl is a +1 and it's like, it's fine, I guess. We have 115 points total, and as you can see here, we were 4th pick, so we were actually guaranteed to get one of these new unbans if we wanted it, and that was one mon I very much wanted. I think I might have picked it even if I had been 1st pick, but we didn't end up getting it because other people did want something else. We in the speed division was actually very fast with drafting the first couple of rounds. We had even started the draft before the draft actually started, like an unofficial ghost draft or whatever you want to call it. Where we kind of just laid down which picks we wanted, and I could tell the coaches in front of me wanted something different than what I wanted, so I could actually base my team around what the mon I wanted, and that was Naganadel. So Naganadel is an 18-pointer, and this was in the draft where 20 points was the maximum. So there was only 3 mons in 20 points. There was Dragapult, Greninja, and Mega Alakazam. Those 3 were 20 points. Then there was a good amount of 19 pointers, and then Naganadel was an 18. I think Naganadel in 18 is a very good steal. It probably was the most discussed mon to potentially have been a 19-pointer. So I'm very happy to take it as 4th pick. It's good value. The restriction we have is no nasty plot, so we're not allowed to run nasty plot on our Naganadel. But I have a lot of, like, we can run Choice Scarf, we can run Choice Specs, but also have a couple of other stuff we can run it. It does have access to spikes and T-spikes. We already have a hazard set of which I'm very happy about. Because hazard setting has been like a little bit more difficult for me personally to draft lately, just because I've been wanting to try new stuff, but I've been very adamant about drafting hazard earlier in my like draft career, whatever you want to call it. So now when I want to try new stuff, the new stuff doesn't have hazard, so it's like it's a little bit of a dilemma. So having a Naganadel that can now set spikes and T-spikes is very, very nice. Now I wanted to pair a specific mon with Naganadel. Naganadel doesn't have any recovery, so I really wanted Rillaboom. I feel like Rillaboom with Naganadel would have been such an amazing pairing, but Rillaboom was taken pick 2 in round 2. So we went like all the way down, and then just the 2nd pick on the way back up, Rillaboom was taken. But as I mentioned, the draft went very fast. So from Rillaboom was taken there to it came to my pick, not a lot of time passed. So I actually didn't really have much time to look at what I wanted instead of Rillaboom. So I just ended up going with the mon I would have picked as my 3rd pick, and that was Slowbro. So we picked up Slowbro. I'm very, very comfortable and very happy about using Slowbro. It's a nice psychic water type, access to teleport, can set up with Calm Mind, can set up with, I believe it does get Iron Defense as well with Body Press. I think it does. Access to Thunder Wave, so we can like speed control. Toxic because it's Gen 1 mon, and anything below Gen 8 has Toxic pretty much. Just a generically good mon. It can take the Psychic hit that Naganadel doesn't want to take. It can take the Ice hit that Naganadel doesn't want to take. So it's a pretty good pairing still with Naganadel. It would have been amazing with Rillaboom because that would have been like a really cool core to have. But overall, I'm still happy about getting Slowbro. And we, again, didn't have a lot of time before third pick came up, so I kind of just have to go with what I have been wanting after Rillaboom, but doing it one pick earlier than planned. So we didn't really get a whole lot of power to begin with, but we did pick up Togekiss. So Togekiss is a really good mon, especially offense with 120 special attack. Fairy types are very good in Draft League format. They're just good in general. We get a flying typing, which is very nice. It is a little bit annoying that it does share the electric weakness with Slowbro. But we can overall overcome that because we do have Naganadel, which resisted, and we will draft some stuff down the line that are better against electric types. We now have access to Defog, which is very nice. We can get rid of Hazard. We also have access to Heal Bell and Wish. I probably won't run Wish on Togekiss that much, just because I would prefer to just, you know, Roost Soft Boil, because it's a little bit better for Togekiss to run that. But I used Togekiss and Slowbro, that combo specifically, in a couple of seasons ago, and I was very happy about it. I ended up running offensive Togekiss a bit more than I actually thought I would, so it can be a little bit of a powerhouse if you really know how to use it. So I'm very happy about picking up Togekiss. It's one of my favorite fairy types to probably use, and overall I think it pairs fairly well with our team. Now, next up, we have Mienshao. So, as I mentioned, we didn't really have any raw power beside Naganadel with Slowbro and Togekiss. Yeah, Togekiss can hit hard, but it's mostly going to be in like a support role, a defensive role. So getting Mienshao given us another regenerator mon. I do love my regenerator, but that wasn't really the main reason why I picked Mienshao. The main reason I picked it was because the speed tier, 105, is a very good speed tier. It has access to setup and sword stance, and it can hit really, really hard with like a choice band. Even just a choice scarf set is really good. You can run AV on it. You can do a couple of stuff with Mienshao, and I'm a big fan of Mienshao. Now, what Mienshao though kind of lacks a little bit, not lacks, but what it does very well on our team is it's another pivot. So now we have Naganadel, Slowbro, Mienshao. We have pivots on pivots on pivots, and I kind of wanted to keep that up with our next pick. I originally thought about picking up Raikou for my electric type, but I did like a kind of a draft plan, and I actually ended up being 1 point over, so I had to change some stuff around, and the electric type we ended up picking was Rotom-Heat. This is going to be my first time using Rotom-Heat specifically. I've used Rotom Wash, I've used Rotom Mow I think once before. I've used Rotom Wash twice and Rotom Mow once, and I think regular Rotom once. I don't think I've ever used Frost, Fan, or Heat. I'm very excited about using Heat. I always thought about using it because it is a really good mon. I do think it's not the greatest on our team because getting a faster electric type might have been a little bit better, and having an electric type that's weak to water is not the greatest because we might end up not being the greatest against water type, but we just have to kind of deal with it when we get there. But again, it's another defogger. It has access to Pain Split. It got Nasty Plot in, I think it was it Gen 8? I think it was Gen 8 they got access to Nasty Plot. It might have been Gen 7, but I think it was Gen 8. Overheat, of course, for its Fire Step. Thunderbolt, Volt Switch. It's another pivot. As I mentioned, you can do Will-O-Wisp, you can do Toxic. It does also get Trick, I believe, so you can do quite a lot of things with the different Rotoms. And Rotom-Heat is probably the second best Rotom overall, and it's probably the best offensive Rotom, I think. So it gives a little bit more power, a better way to also break some potential Steel types with now both Mienshao and Rotom, so Naganadel can really just pop off with its moves. Very happy about this Rotom pick, but we'll see how it performs. I might drop it depending on that, who knows. Next up, we wanted a little bit of more bulk. We wanted something that can take, that can just sit there, take some hits, and that mon is Registeel. Registeel is one of my favorite steel types to pick up, just because it is a tank that is just sitting there. It just sits there, take a hit, it can fire up a Thunder Wave, it can set up Stealth Rocks, it can set up with Iron Defense Body Punch, which is a set people have started to fear a lot sometimes. The only thing I think Registeel lacks is facing. If it got like Haze, Whirlwind, Roar, something like that to face out on an opponent, this would be an amazing, this would be like a top tier steel pick in my opinion, because it gives you everything else you want in a defensive steel. It can take hits, it can hit back decently sometimes. Like, it does only have base 75 attack and special attack, so it's not the hardest hitter, but having 150 in both defenses just makes it such a good overall defensive tank. And then, as mentioned, it can disrupt your opponent, access to Thunder Wave, access to Toxic. It's our first Stealth Rocker, and a very solid Stealth Rocker at that. We can break rocks on this thing almost every week, and nobody would bat an eye, probably. But there will be those matchups where Registeel isn't the greatest, so we needed a secondary Stealth Rocker, and as I mentioned, we needed something that can kind of deal with electro types a little bit, because we do have a slight weakness. We have Rotom that can resist, but we of course need that immunity, and that is going to be Donphan. I will fully admit I had not planned on picking up Donphan at all. Like Rotom-Heat, Registeel, and Donphan, I actually didn't really plan too much to pick up, but I ended up picking them. Registeel because it's comfort, I know Registeel a lot. Rotom-Heat because it's an exciting one I kind of want to try, and Donphan was because I needed the removal at the time. At the time I was like, oh, I only have Togekiss and I really don't want to run Defog on Togekiss that much. And Rotom, I don't want to run Defog on those two if I can get around it. So picking up Donphan, getting access to Rapid Spin and Stealth Rock as well. Having Sturdy as an ability can be an amazing lead. You have access to Ice Shot and Priority, Knockoff. I love my Knockoff. We now have 2 Knockoff users in Mienshao and Donphan. And we, of course, have access to a very powerful EQ. Yeah, if I picked up Rillaboom, of course, probably wouldn't have picked up Donphan, but you know, it is what it is. We can kind of get around it. If some way the trainer that picked up, the coach that picked up Rillaboom drops it, I probably will try and see if I can scoop it up, and then I'll see if I'll keep Donphan or not. Overall, I'm very happy about Donphan. It's kind of generic. I know how to use it. I've used it a couple of times already. It can do a lot. Well, it can do a lot. It can do like 2 sets, 3 sets maybe. But it's just a good generically physically defensive, physically offensive mon. Can run AV if you really wanted to, but it probably, yeah, it might. Like in a matchup where you bring both Donphan and Registeel, it actually can run AV because Registeel could be the rock setter then. Speaking of a little bit of diversity, so the next couple of months, the next 2 months specifically, was very 50-50 if I picked those 2 or if I picked 2 others. And the first of those 2 is Silvally. So Silvally is 12.1, and another 12.1 that was that I really wanted or I was looking at was Mega Kangaskhan. I very much thought about picking up Mega Kangaskhan. It would be a secondary Wish Pass at taking that away from Togekiss, which would have been very nice because our team can use Wish fairly well. Registeel likes it, Donphan likes it, even Rotom to some extent really like it, Naganadel to some extent really like it. But I opted for Silvally because our team wasn't that hard hitting. And it's not because Silvally is hard hitting, it's because the other mon we picked is a little bit more hard hitting. But we pick Silvally, it's all typings, we can use whatever Silvally type we want, and I'm fairly happy about that. It makes it so we aren't really losing out on any typings, and if we're going up against someone that has a very good offensive electric type, we can now run Silvally ground and Donphan and having those 2 ground types, so it can't just go around and do what it wants. Silvally is also another defogger, so all of a sudden I went from panicking a little bit about removal to just having 4 removers that are all very, very solid. I would prefer not to run it on Togekiss. That is probably the one mon I would very much prefer not to run defog on. The rest, I'm comfortable running removal on, so I'm very happy about that. Silvally is also another pivot in both with U-turn and parting shot, and parting shot is like probably the best pivot in the game. I would say, because lowering your opponent's attack and special attack by 1 stage is such a good thing to be able to do, because that means you can come in with a mon that can set up, you can come in and not fear too much what they're going to do to you, and it's just a good way to also keep your opponent a little bit in check. Other than that, Silvally can be a really good defensive mon. Having base 95 in all stats just makes it an overall all-rounder, you know. It can be offensive, it can be defensive, it can be support. We do, as I mentioned, we do have access to all the typings, so if we see a matchup where we have a really good like fighting matchup, we can run Silvally fighting, stuff like that. Pretty excited about using Silvally. I've used it twice before, but I actually dropped it both times, I think, because at that time it was forced in a specific role. Like I had to bring this kind of Silvally, otherwise it wouldn't work. This time around, the team is way better to support what Silvally wants to do. So Silvally can be pretty much anything. I'm not forced to really run, like I'm not missing a significant typing, I feel like, so I can run whatever I want with Silvally. Now, the other mon, as I mentioned, that I paired, well, not paired with Silvally, but that I ended up picking up to get that little bit more power is Mega Absol. So I'm very nervous about Mega Absol. I've never used it before. Well, okay, I used it in a tour once, I think. I can't even remember if it was a regular tour or if it was a speed tour, but it's good. It has 150 physical attack, 115 special attack, and 115 speed, I believe. So it does give us that speed gap between Mienshao and Naganadel. The other mons I was thinking of picking up instead of Silvally and Mega Absol was Mega Kangaskhan and Sneasel. Sneasel would have gotten us the same speed gap, but I felt like if I picked Sneasel, Mega Kangaskhan I didn't have any gripe with. I could just have picked Mega Kangaskhan. It was more so the Sneasel I was a little bit like iffy with, because having Sneasel is really, really good. Like, access to Ice Shot, access to Knockoff is very nice, and I have a history with Sneasel, so I love it very much. But I kind of wanted a little bit harder hitting Dark type, so I can just go in on like a bulky Psychic type, because right now bulky Psychic types is kind of our biggest weakness. I feel like maybe together with bulky Waters, which are fairly common in drafts, so I'm a little bit nervous about that. But getting Absol definitely helps a little bit with the bulky Psychic types. It does also makes us so our opponent probably is more likely to run Colbberry, but Dark is a decent coverage move, so we can probably pop it with other stuff and then just hit with Absol. Absol also has access to Sucker Punch, so we still have the priority that Sneasel would have had. It is a little bit more unreliable, I feel like, because if the opponent isn't attacking, then Sucker Punch doesn't do anything. And we also still has access to the Sword Stance that Sneasel would have had. The biggest main plus I think with Absol is it can be a physical attacker, of course, but it can also be a very good special attacker, and it gets access to setup on both sides. It has Sword Stance and it has Calm Mind, so we can be both ways. I'm very happy about that. Now, as you can see, we have 3 points left, and I kind of knew which mon I wanted about midway through the draft. I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick this mon because I didn't get my Rillaboom, so I'm going to take the baby brother, Thwackey. Thwackey synergizes with our team fairly decent with the Grassy Terrain. So like, Naganadel loves it, Slowbro likes it, Registeel really likes it, Donphan likes it, except we can't really run Earthquakes. We have to run high horsepower. Donphan does get high horsepower, so that is okay. It's base 95 instead of base 100. The more annoying part about Donphan is it's now a 95 accurate move instead of 100. That's like the biggest. If we miss one, oh god no, please. But overall, Thwackey with the Grassy Terrain to mainly just support Naganadel. I feel like that's the biggest reason why I wanted the Grassy Terrain, just because I feel like it goes very well with Naganadel. Naganadel is a Dragon Poison, so it does get despite the animation is it flying, it still gets its Grassy Terrain healing, which is a very nice thing to have. So yeah, that's my overall team, and as you can see here it is. So Naganadel, Slowbro, Togekiss, Mienshao, Rotom-Heat, Registeel, Donphan, Silvally, Mega Absol, and Thwackey. I think the absolute biggest plus on our team is all of the mons can come any given week. I don't think we have one mon, even Thwackey for a 3-pointer, it's very bulky within Eviolite. It has really good support in Grassy Terrain, Grassy Glide, Knockoff. It's really, really good on this team, I feel like. So I could definitely see myself bringing Thwackey. I don't think we have one mon that I'm like wanting not to bring. Actually, honestly, Mega Absol is probably the mon I'm most nervous about bringing in a match, just because it is so frail and I really just have to make sure it can actually perform. Other than that, I'm very happy about this team. It lacks a little bit of punching power, I would say that much. Like, our hardest hitter is Mega Absol, of course, and then Naganadel. But both of those, I feel like, get checked. Like, Naganadel gets checked by Steel and Water types to some extent. It does get Thunderbolt for Water types. But Steel types, I can't remember if it gets Fire moves. I think it actually does. Never mind. I actually do think it gets, like, Fire Blast and Flamethrower. So. But I still feel like Naganadel is better as a sweeper towards the end rather than a breaker. So we do need that little bit of breaking power to kind of whittle down the opponent. But I think our team can do it in other ways. We have Nasty Plot, Rotom, Nasty Plot, Togekiss. We can kind of set up with a lot of our mons, which I think is a very positive thing. We have a lot of pivots. Thwackey, Silvally, Rotom, Mienshao, Slowbro, and Naganadel. I love my pivots, and it's so nice to have. We have decent amount of like hazard setting. We have 2 Stealth Rockers, 1 Spike and T-Spike user, and Naganadel. We have pretty good removal as well, 3 Defoggers and 1 Rapid Spin user. So overall, I'm very happy about this. if other coaches drop certain mons, I might pick them up, but other than that, it would come down to performance. I don't think there's any mons right now that I'm like, yeah, I'm probably dropping this at some point. It's gonna come down to performance. If I bring Mega Absol and Mega Absol gets like 4 kills in 1 week, I can't drop it. Like, I just can't. Even though I know it's kind of the most iffy mon on the team, probably. A lot of people don't really think Mega Absol is all that great. And to some extent, I do agree. I don't think it's the greatest mon, but I think it can do pretty good work on this team. That's it. As always, if you like the video, make sure to leave a like on the video. Leave a comment down below what you think of my team and what would you replace. What do you think is the mon that just does not fit the team at all? And subscribe to the channel for future videos. And with that, I'm out. Peace, YouTube.